Good afternoon. It's a beautiful sunny day. There's hardly any clouds about, which is not a good thing really for landscape photography, but we'll see. I've just climbed up a hill, quite a big hill actually. It's not actually that tall a hill and it's not that long a climb, but it is quite steep, so I'm a bit out of breath. The hill is called, well, I've seen it called various things, but I know it as Righteous Yoma, and it's by the sea, and it has a medieval watchtower perched on the seaward side. It's a ruin, it's derelict, but it's still quite photogenic. So I've come up here this afternoon. It's a good 3 hours actually before sunset. I've come up here to see if I can find a composition that will work, particularly given the fact that we're likely to have no clouds, so that might be a bit of a challenge. But I've also come to scout it for possible early morning shoots, because it will actually be a place that will catch the light very nicely this time of year at sunrise. It's just actually making the climb in the dark that I'm not so keen on. But let me just give you an idea of what the view is like. So looking down there, that's where I started off, and I've climbed up the hill, and then this is the view down, and you can see just about the watchtower there. And of course I'm pointing the camera right at the sun at the moment, which is probably not doing you any favours, but the sun will be setting kind of over that way. So I've got a little bit more walking to do. I've got to head across basically kind of almost a ridge between this part of the hill and the part of the hill that is actually the tallest part and overlooks where the watchtower is. So I'm going to head over there now, and I'll catch up with you again when I get over there. Whew, right, I've made it up to the summit. It's pretty windy up here, so I'm not quite sure what the audio is going to come out like. I am trying out an external sound recorder at the moment, but I haven't yet got a wind muff for it, so it may not be that great, but we'll see what we can make of it. So the summit has some pretty spectacular views that I'll show you in a moment. On the way up here, there's a rocky ridge that I had to cross, and apologies for not filming it, but to be honest, it's quite narrow. The trail is not very well marked, and there's drop-offs on both sides. It would be really easy to miss your footing if you're not paying attention, and I really didn't fancy tumbling 30 or 40 metres down an almost sheer drop for the sake of a little bit of video. It would be quite hair-raising if I actually had any hair left. So I'll give you a little bit of a look around the scene now, just so you can get an idea of the views. We've got a view across there to Campello del Oro mountain, and I'm actually thinking there might be a composition to be had from here, because there's a little channel, like a winding road that goes into the scene. That might work. And as we come around over in the distance, we have the Etana mountains, and then Puig Campana, and then looking across to the north and northeast, we can see the skylines of Benidorm, and way off in the distance the Sierra Helada. And then if we look the other way, which now means we're looking almost directly into the sun, so it's not doing too well, but we're looking down towards El Campello, where I live, and out to Alicante. So I'm going to spend a few minutes having a look around, just to get a feel for what the options are from here, and then I may move on and explore a little bit further, maybe down towards the tower, which I'm not sure if I showed you all that well. Whew, right, well I've made it down to the tower and I've actually just taken shelter out of the wind to hopefully get a bit better audio on this video. So the tower is off to my right here. Sadly, there are always people who have to graffiti things. Why they would bother climbing all the way up here to paint graffiti on a tower, I have no idea. I don't understand the mentality, but there we go. It's still beautiful up here. There's a beautiful view down along the coast and the town of El Campello, and then beyond to San Juan, and then on to Alicante. Now, the challenge is going to be the lack of cloud. We're not going to get a decent sunset here. And to be honest, the climb down from the summit to the tower was fairly challenging actually. I mean, it's not drastic, but the trail isn't marked, it's all loose rock, it's narrow, and if I'm honest, I don't fancy doing it in the dark after doing a sunset shot, and I don't fancy doing it in the dark in the lead up to a dawn shot. So I'm not sure that this particular location is going to work. So before I leave this spot, which is fairly secluded from the wind, I just wanted to mention something else that's been going on here this week. In this part of Spain, there's a big celebration that takes place in most of the towns. Happens in different towns at different times of the year. And October is when El Campello, the town that I live in, celebrates the fiesta of the Moors and Christians. This week what we did is we went up to the big parade which takes place on the streets in the town at El Campello, and I have to say it's a magnificent spectacle. I did shoot some video and I took some pictures. It's not landscapes, but I thought I'd just mention it briefly in this video. The actual parade lasts about 3 hours. Starts at around 7:15 and finishes shortly after 10 o'clock in the evening. And there are bands, marching bands with drums and with other musical instruments. And there are even more bands with more drums and more musical instruments. And there's people doing this kind of weird drunken marching, which I'm assuming has some kind of significance, but I don't really know what it is. There are also people dressed up in some frankly magnificent costumes. Now, because we had just a normal spectator position there, we weren't in any way in a privileged location, I did feel that for some of the more impressive costumes I was better shooting those as stills using a speedlight flash to bring out the colours and the detail. So I haven't got much video of the costumes. But what we also had was people doing street performance. I mean, dancing in some really amazing costumes, and really quite beautiful to see. And of course, yes, I took some stills. I'm not actually great at working with unnatural light, with flash photography. It's not my skill set. But I gave it a go, and I'm actually quite pleased with some of the results. So there's 2 or 3 pictures coming up. Okay, 4 or 5 pictures, but I got carried away. Anyway, I'll put a link in the video description to a site where you can see the rest of the pictures that I took, if that's something that you're interested in. And now, let's get back onto some landscape photography. As the sun's getting lower, it's picking out some nice details on Campello mountain, which is over there behind me. And I've set up a composition which is using the valley with the steeply cut rock walls where the road winds its way up, and then in the midground there's the small village of Busot, some hills, and then behind that the main mountain, and there's actually some clouds on the mountain. It's pretty much the only clouds around at the moment, so I'm making use of those. I'm using the 18 to 105 lens, and I am at probably about 55 mil, maybe a little bit under that. I've got a polarizer on because we are side lit. The sun is actually at about 90 degrees to the camera, but also I'm just trying to cut out a little bit of haze which is obscuring the mountain, obscuring the detail a little bit. And I've also put a 2-stop soft ND graduated filter on as well, just to darken the sky, which is a lot brighter than the foreground. I'm shooting at f11, so let's see what we can get from this. So just had a nice chat with a guy up here jogging with his dog. Both of us are admiring the clouds over the mountain, which is actually looking very nice again. Right, the sun's getting a lot lower now. We're well into official golden hour. In fact, sunset's only about 10 minutes away, and we are getting some colours on those clouds over Campello mountain. I don't know how well the colours are coming out on the video, but they're certainly looking quite nice here. They're not fiery reds, but they're quite pretty. So in terms of my setup, I am at about 50 mil, maybe a fraction under. It's always a job to tell trying to read the markings on the lens. F11, let's give that a go and see. Yeah, that exposure looks about right. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice actually. Not what I came up here to shoot, but we may have a nice image. But I think we're going to lose the best of the light literally in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. I can already see the colours starting to fade. Okay, the sun's dropping behind a bank of cloud off on the horizon out beyond inland part of Alicante. To be honest, although we got a brief bit of colour in the sky, it didn't last very long, and now all the light's gone from the foreground, and although the clouds are nice, the foreground light was actually what was making it for me, and the light detail being picked out on the mountain. So I think we are done. I'm going to pack up and probably try and get down off of this hill before it gets too dark. I have got a head torch, so I should be okay, even if it does get dark, but I'd prefer to get down before it gets too dark. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please click on the subscribe link that will appear up on the screen. I think it's up that side in a few seconds. And don't forget to tap the little alarm bell. That way you'll get a notification whenever I do a new video. Until the next time, thank you very much for watching. Bye.